So at this point, we've gotten a lot of practice at graphing lines in slope-intercept form. In the next set of videos here, we're going to be talking about how you actually write the equation for the graph of a line. So we're kind of taking our process. Before we made the graph, here we're given some information, perhaps a graph, and we're asked to give the equation. Now, if you look at this first example here, we want to give the equation for each graph, and the easiest way to do that is to do it in y equals mx plus b form. Now, when you're writing something in y equals mx plus b form, you need two things. You need the slope, and you need the y-intercepts. Well, looking at my graph right here, I can see that there are two dots on this graph, and I can figure out the slope of my line. So if I start at the left point, I go down 1, 2, 3, 4 over 3. My slope is negative 4 over 3. Well, if that's my slope, in my equation for this line right here, the number in front of the x, my m, has to be negative 4 over 3. So I have negative 4 over 3x. And then I just need to know what my b is, my number that goes by itself. If you look at the graph right here, the y-intercept is at positive 2. That means there's going to be a plus 2 there. So you can work the process in reverse and figure out the equation based on information on a graph. On my second example here, unfortunately, it's not quite as clear because they don't give us the dots on the graph like they did on this first example here. So I'm going to show you guys how you actually get the equation later in this video, like the official equation. But if you want to be close, you can still do pretty much the same two things. I'm going to try to find two nice dots on my graph. And I see a nice dot right here. I see another one right here. Those two dots are right through going on corners in my graphs. If you're drawing this on your own, just try to make it look similar. It's not going to be perfect, obviously, but try to make those two dots align with your picture. Well, anyway, once I have my two dots here, my slope appears to be about up to over 3. That's a positive 2/3. So in my equation right here, I know I'm going to be seeing y equals 2/3 x. Now the trouble on this one is that my y-intercept right there is not a nice number. It's not going to be like a solid, it's not a whole number or an integer. So what I'm going to do right here is really, for my purposes on this problem, just kind of eyeball it. There's negative 1, there's negative 2. This is like negative 1.5 would be like right here. It's just a tiny bit above negative 1.5. I'm going to call it a negative 1.4. So minus 1.4. For right now, I'm going to leave my answer just like this. It's not the exact perfect 100% match equation, but it's really close. If this was a multiple choice test, you would know what was going on by seeing that. In the later problems in this video and in the next video, we'll learn how you would get an actual equation out of that info, but this would be a pretty good estimate. Now, sometimes you'll be dealing with situations where you have graphs. Sometimes I can give you just information and ask you to make the equation based on that. So, on this first problem here, we want to make the equation of a line that has a slope of 1/2 and passes through this point 4, 1. First of all, one option you would have that you're totally welcome to do, you could graph this. We've learned how to graph that information in a previous video. We haven't done the equation though. So I could make my graph, I could put a dot at 4, 1, count up 1 over 2, draw my line, and then treat it like that second problem that we did right here. So I would draw my random line, and then I would try to eyeball its equation. But there's another way that doesn't require you to go through the trouble of graphing it. And that's what I'm going to be doing on this video. So, we know our equation is y equals mx plus b. That's kind of the best way to write the equation for a line. They told us the slope of our line, so we already know that a 1/2 has to go right here for m. They told us the slope in the problem, right here. So I know it's going to be y equals 1/2 x plus b. The trouble is, b has to be your y-intercept, and we don't know what the y-intercept is. They just give us some random point on the graph. But the thing that kind of saves the day here is that this point right here, I have an x and I have a y. I can plug in my x and I can plug in my y. If I do that, the only variable left is b. So I'll show you what I mean by that. I have my x and y. I'm going to throw those in my equation right here. So instead of y equals, I have 1 equals, that was my y, 1/2, my x is 4, plus, oh no, that was my cat. Sorry. I don't think I'm going to restart the video. I'm kind of far in right now. We'll see. Sorry about that. Okay, so I got 1/2 times my x plus b. I don't know what b is. This is an equation we can solve. 1/2 times 4 is 2. So I have 1 equals 2 plus b. I'm going to subtract my 2 from both sides, and I get -1 equals b. So really what I did there is I plugged in for x and y, and I just found what b is. Now I know my b is -1. That means in my original equation right here, that number is really a -1. So my final equation is y equals 1/2 x minus 1. So one more problem in this video here. Again, a little maybe confusing at first, but it's not too bad of a process once you get the hang of it. In this problem, they give us 2 points that are on our line. When they give us 2 points, our last problem, we were able to do that nice little trick with our slope. We have y equals mx plus b. And what we did is we just threw our slope right there because it's in the equation. Well, unfortunately on this one, if they give you 2 points here, you can't just plug in the slope. They don't give it to you. But we learned how to find slope pretty quickly. So I'm going to do my delta y, delta x right here. And I'm going to find my slope. They give you 2 points, just find your slope. So when I do that, it looks like I'm going to get -12/3, which is -4. So my slope on this one is -4, which means I'm going to have y equals -4x plus b. Now on this problem, I have 2 points here that I can choose from. It doesn't matter which one I use. I can make this x and y, or I can make this x and y. You will get the same answer either way. But what I need to do now is plug in one of those points for x and y, and find out what that b is equal to. So I'll just use the left point, I guess. They're really not a big deal either way. I get 5 equals -4 times -2 plus b. So 5 equals, that's going to be 8 plus b minus 8. I get b equals -3. I just plugged in for x and y, and I got b. Well, once I get b, I can just throw it back in the equation. Final answer for this one is y equals my -4x from before minus 3.